So I was in Saigon until, and we did little working parties there on an air base close to Saigon, and also on the road that went north along the coast, the railroad. We worked on that railroad because the American planes were bombing out bridges on that railroad. And they took us up that railroad, and we worked on rebuilding bridges on that railroad that went from Saigon, really went from Saigon up to Hanoi. So I worked up as far as Da Nang. Now, any guys that were in Vietnam War knows where that area is. And while we were there in Saigon, when the war ended, now one morning, see while we were there, the Japanese came every morning. We all had to line up for a row count. You know, we all had to number off, and we all had to number off in Japanese. That's why we had to learn the Japanese numbers. But one morning, the officer called us together, and he says, "The war is no more." He said, "The Japanese emperor has saw fit not to continue all the inhumanity that the war has been doing to the people." Words to that effect. And so the Japanese emperor has decided, for the sake of all the people, to end the war. Yeah. And he said, also, the Americans have done something very terrible to the Japanese people. They have dropped an enormous big explosion on Japan. That was the A-bombs they were talking about. And that was the end of the war. After that Japanese officer talked to us and told us all of that, he and all the guards disappeared. We did not see another Japanese from that time on. But that day, that same day that he told us that morning, we saw a big plane come over, fairly low, and of course you could hear it good. And when you heard an airplane, you rushed out to look and look and look. You're going to see an American plane. And sure enough, it was an American plane. Some big gobs or something were falling out of this plane. Yeah. And they were dropping it on the airbase where we worked many times. Well, not long after we saw the plane go over, come riding into our camp was a Jeep with 2 soldiers in it. They were American soldiers, and those was our first American that we saw. I was a POW for 3.5 years, 42 months. Yeah. So, of course, this Jeep came in with those 2 soldiers. They had their Jeep loaded with boxes of all candy bars, chewing gum, cigarettes. Boy, were we happy to see all of them. But they took all our names, you know. But they said, tomorrow planes will come and you're going to pick you up. So the next day, about the middle of the day, they took us to the airport, which we had gone many times. But they took us out in groups of about 20. And I was with the first group. And when they took us out, and we marched over to the C-46s or C-47, two-engine transport planes. And the pilots were standing there by the door as we marched in. And we were so amazed. These two pilots were no older than high school kids. They looked so young, you know. But it was nice to see those young guys.